I get a lot of spam. Normally, I just ignore it. Now, some people say spam is destroying the internet.
Spam traffic is growing at a geometric rate.
Internet crime as a whole is going to be on the increase for decades to come.
People are losing tens of thousands of dollars out of their bank accounts.
Normally, I just ignore them, too.
People have not grasped the seriousness which this type of intrusion is causing.
What if I stopped ignoring spam? That's just me richer and happier. But if I reply to it, will I improve my life? Or will I destroy the internet?
If you've got mail, then you've got me.
If you want to get in shape, this is one way.
I want to send you stuff for free.
And this is the other.
A friendly face inside the headlines of your inbox. Don't shoot the messenger. I only want to be your friend. 1,000 things I'd love to send. So open up your heart and press reply. I am spam. Shorter, faster, longer, better. I am spam.
In case you haven't guessed by now, I've started replying to my spam. I'm buying a few products to see if they improve my life as much as the advertisers claim.
Hey, I recognize that book.
And along the way, I'll learn everything I need to know about spam.
The simplest definition of spam is that it's mail sent in bulk to people who didn't ask for it. I mean, like, if you ask me to say, send me your wonderful ads, that's not spam. But if I just force them on you, that's spam, and I shouldn't do that. I mean, there's way more spam than legitimate mail now.
But where did all this spam come from, and how did it get its name? To learn the answer to that, I've got to start in Austin, Minnesota. Minnesota is the land of 10,000 lakes and the birthplace of spam.
We're here? Okay.
In fact, here in Austin, the streets are paved with spam.
Well, you are in Spamtown, USA, which is in Austin, Minnesota. And Spamtown, USA got its name because this is the home of Hormel Foods and the world-renowned Spam Museum.
Spam was invented in 1937, and it's short for spiced ham. But how did email get the name spam?
The story of how they came up with that name, I think, ties back to the Monty Python skit.
Spam, egg, spam, spam, bacon and spam.
When a slang term springs up like that, there's only so much you can do.
Hormel makes the distinction quite clear. Spam in uppercase is edible, spam in lowercase is not.
The whole issue with respect to the guidelines on our website relates to trying to make sure that people can distinguish between the two.
Although when it comes to grammar and spelling, most spammers don't have a clue. Now, Austin's a great place to visit, but clearly, I'm looking for the other kind of spam. Oh, there's been a penis enlargement breakthrough. 100% guaranteed. All gains are permanent. So we wait. It looks like I have some time to kill. But happily, the motel has high speed. London, England, home to the Queen, double-decker buses, and the man who christened Spam, in lowercase.
Spam, 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 spam.
Well, I can't remember any of the lines at all.
Egg and spam, egg, bacon and spam, egg, bacon, sausage and spam.
I was cheating because I was reading the whole thing off the board. I just didn't think I was going to get the number of spams right every time, so and I was reading a menu.
Spam, 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 baked beans.
The word spam was repeated over 100 times in the sketch, gradually drowning out all other dialogue. And that's what email has become. Unsolicited spams simply overwhelm and outnumber the legitimate messages that you and I get.
In those days, you weren't allowed to say trade names on the BBC. So there was a question raised by our producer, but we said, no, spam's just a generic name. It's not a trademark at all. It'd be fine. And somehow we got away with it.
Have you got anything without spam in it? Well, spam, egg, sausage and spam. There's not got much spam in it.
I have to confess, I've never had spam since I was at school, I think. So I've probably gone for like 40 years as a spam-free zone.
I wish my email box was a spam-free zone.
Now I'm getting rather a lot of sort of amazing offers for share certificates and things like that.
Ironically, Terry has become a victim of the epidemic he named.
And sort of various African princesses and people like this. My word, doesn't it look fine? I think the internet is a pretty amazing thing, and I would be prepared to put up with a bit of spam in order to have the freedom of the internet.
I don't like spam! Well, don't make a fuss, dear. I'll have your spam. I love it.
Who actually buys this stuff? Does anyone buy stuff from spam?
Somebody must buy a lot of stuff from spammers because they're clearly in it for the money, and if they weren't making money, they wouldn't do it.
Sending email is free, so a spammer can afford to send out millions of spams, hoping that just one will connect with a fertile customer and a sale will occur.
The essence of spamming is that somebody else pays for the spammer's ads. I mean, when you send out 1 million pieces of mail, the recipient actually bears most of the cost of receiving email. So it might cost you 1/100th of a cent a message to send me a penny process and receive. That's not advertising, that's a parasite.
But parasites have been around for a long time. 100 years ago, we actually had a problem with telegram spam. Since then, the fax machine gave us junk faxes, the telephone gave us telemarketers, and the door gave us encyclopedia salesmen. A lot of people have tried to stop spam, notably Bill Gates, who predicted an end to it in 2006. Unfortunately for Bill, and for us, spam is still here.
If we don't deal with the spam problem, there's a couple of bad things that are going to happen. I mean, now we're seeing 80 to 90% spam. I mean, if you go from 90% spam to 95% spam, do the arithmetic, that means the amount of spam has doubled. Go from 95% to 98%, it's more than doubled again. Each time this happens, this means that those of us who want to receive our email have to double the amount of equipment, double the amount of staff, double the amount we're paying to get the relatively constant amount of real email we want. So one of the things is just making email much less affordable for ISPs and providers.
One of those internet service providers is America Online, one of the world's largest ISPs. Their network security operates from this secret bunker.
We're going to take you from the back here to our network operations center. We do all of our 24/7 monitoring of the entire AOL network and the internet, as well as our spam fighting and our monitoring of the email system as a whole.
Okay.
And we'll take you back there, all from one place.
AOL's Network Operations Center is patterned after a NASA control room. This is where spam goes to die.
These days, I think it's around 2 billion emails a day that we're blocking. We're delivering probably around 400 million legitimate emails.
Spammers try to penetrate AOL's defenses with dictionary attacks. The spammer makes up a series of usernames and then emails them. Any mail that doesn't get bounced means that address is live and can be added to a mailing list. If AOL sees a lot of this kind of traffic coming into their network, they can cut off the connection and foil the spammer.
If we were to deliver everything that were attempted at our gates, we would be adding an additional 25 to 80 emails to every single member's mailbox every day that they'd have to weed through, and it's all junk. By and large, the overwhelming majority of what we're processing is the unit enlargement stuff.
While shooting this film, I've been tracking my email. Over the past 4 months, I've received about 6,500 spams. 39% of those offer to enlarge my unit.
Thank you for purchasing one of our products online. Each one of these is worth $7. These patches will enlarge my, well, they'll improve my life. That's what the patches are supposed to do.
The only way that we know to increase the size of the penis is with weights, traction. But prolonged use of weights or traction on the penis damages its erectile function. Any man that wants to hang 20 pounds of bricks from his penis will increase the size of his penis, but it won't work. To me, these look like simple bandages. What I do as a surgeon is I make the penis bigger within the limits of safety.
These things aren't working.
And it still works afterwards. In other words, you still get erections. I haven't had a single patient that's been prepared to trade erections for length.
Yet spammers consistently promise length without surgery.
Are they expecting it to get that big?
Vacuum devices have been used for men with erectile dysfunction because they cause engorgement.
I'm like, well, my cheek is getting sucked out.
If they use this for an extended period of time, they may end up getting a pathological condition called lymphedema, which is swelling in the skin, and damage the penis.
Ouch. There are over 40 billion spam messages flying through cyberspace on any given day. But on May 3rd, 1978, there was just one.
According to the Guinness Book of World Records, the first bulk commercial email was sent by a man named Gary Turk.
Hey, Gary.
Back when the internet was still a military network.
It was funded by the military through the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, known as DARPA, or ARPA for short, and they created the ARPANET.
The ARPANET was created at the height of the Cold War as a decentralized communication network capable of surviving a nuclear attack. Meanwhile, Gary was an East Coast marketer trying to sell Digital's newest computer line on the West Coast.
We looked at mailings and phone calls and all that, and then I came up with that, why don't we just email all these people?
How do you get their email addresses?
Back then there was a printed phone book, and we put together about 400 names, and then my program manager typed in all those names.
Typed it by hand?
Typed them in by hand, that's right, okay.
How long did it take?
Over a week he did it. He didn't spend all his time doing that. And I was writing the invitation.
You sent a spam out to, of course it wasn't called spam, what did you call it?
Well, it's just an email, okay? And it's listed in the Guinness Book as the first mass distributed, unsolicited email.
Did you get any sales?
We did about $10 to $12 million in ARPANET system sales over the next 3 years. So that made it all worthwhile. The Friday of that week, my boss got a call. This major called from Washington and chewed my boss out that I had done this and made him promise that I would never do it again.
Okay.
So I never sent another mass mailing over the ARPANET.
Gary may have been chewed out by the Pentagon, but I think he deserves a little credit for being the father of spam.
Could we get this one engraved right away?
You can. Let me get our engraving.
It's
Halloween.
I forgot what I was going to say.
I like it to say.
I'd like it to say Gary Turk, father of spam. Spam should be in all lowercase. Gary, there you go.
Thank you very much.
Father of spam, congratulations.
Thank you.
The ARPANET was funded by the Department of Defense. The only way you could get on was basically by signing an agreement that you would follow the rules. So it's what we now call a walled garden. However, on the modern internet, it's designed so that it can't be controlled from any given point, so that no single person can shut it down, which means that no single person can shut down the spammers either. So long as there is some network somewhere that is either corrupt enough or more likely sloppy enough to let spammers do what they do, we're going to have spam.
So the internet has no one to police against things like spam, but there are organizations out there who are doing stuff like that.
There's a whole bunch of volunteers attempting to do anti-spam stuff, but the one volunteer group that's the most reliable that we all trust are my friends at the Spam House Project in England. They run what's called the Spam House Blacklist, which is simply a list of the network locations of all of the worst spammers.
We have close to 450 million mailboxes protected.
Spam House, a non-profit organization, was founded in 1998 on a houseboat on the Thames. They maintain a blacklist of internet domains used by spammers. ISPs can use this list to block all messages coming from those domains. cutting off the spammer from his victims. The blacklist is so effective that frustrated spammers regularly target Spamhaus with death threats and cyber attacks.
We are constantly under attack, and part of our effort is because we have to protect ourselves. We don't get protection and own help from our own government.
Spammers compile email addresses through harvesting. Their computers, or bots, continually crawl the internet scraping web page code to look for email addresses. But Spamhaus sets traps by posting bogus email addresses. And if any mail goes to a trap, Spamhaus knows it was sent by a spammer who harvested the address.
Our spam trap addresses were never given to anybody, and no permission was given to send to those mailboxes. So we can be sure that anything going into those mailboxes is spam.
Then Spamhaus traces where the message came from and adds the spammer to their blacklist. The blacklist also features a detailed dossier on every known spammer, which makes Spamhaus the eyes and ears of the FBI and Scotland Yard.
Law enforcement can go deeper into our database to see what action they may need to take to deal with the spammers who are breaking the law.
But I discovered that you don't always need high-tech sleuthing to figure out where the spam is coming from. And sometimes, the clues come from the places you least expect. A Rolex. The interesting thing here is, the Rolex spammer has revealed his location.
Florida has been the scam center of the United States ever since they were selling swamp lots in the 1920s. You know, when they ran out of swampland, they moved on to other stuff, and Boca Raton has long had a really bad reputation as a place for telephone boiler rooms. You know, so it's really the natural place for spam scams. Florida also happens to have a very generous bankruptcy law, so that no matter how bankrupt you are, you get to keep your house. In Florida, we have the phenomenon of bankrupt crooks living in palatial mansions that are untouchable because they've dumped all of their assets into their house.
Fighting spam is a low priority for Florida law enforcement, but one force that did make an impact was Hurricane Andrew.
The legend says that the spam levels were going along really high, and then Hurricane Andrew came along, and all of a sudden they dropped, presumably because the power failed in Boca Raton. Given everything I've seen from the amount of spam that is either sent from Boca or at least controlled from Boca, it's really easy to believe.
So could this Rolex I bought off the internet possibly be a fake?
Spared no expense on the packaging.
I can see that.
If it's real, it's worth about $30,000.
If it's Rolex, then it's perfect. They're very meticulous about the way they manufacture and they assemble their watches. These are not diamonds. In fact, these are something called rhinestones, which is a combination of glass with silver on it. I also see that we have a made in China sticker. That's not a good indication since the Rolex is made in Switzerland. This is a fairly easy one to tell that it's not a Rolex.
So it's not even a good fake.
I hope you didn't pay a lot of money for this. Realistically speaking, on a watch like this, they're maybe worth $50, if that.
So far, neither of my spam products have passed the expert test. But I guess that's not surprising when you think that pitchmen have been lying to us since the dawn of time. One classic scam that's become a modern spam is the Spanish prisoner, which began in Europe in 1588. A nobleman is in prison in Spain and he needs to bribe his way out. If you front him some cash, he will be eternally grateful and shower you with riches. Sound familiar?
I am the widow of a deceased Nigerian dictator, and I have a locked-up bank account with millions of dollars, and if you will just give me a little bit of help getting the money out, we'll split it.
The Spanish prisoner has resurfaced as the Nigerian 419 scam. It's called 419 because that's the section of the Nigerian criminal code that deals with fraud.
Nigeria is a very large country with more than 100 million people. It only has one business, which is the oil business. But since they have a glorious British colonial heritage, and a lot of people speak English, they have a rich and deeply developed fraud economy.
An investigation in 2005 resulted in over 300 arrests and the breakup of a $100 million scam ring operating out of Spain. Ironically, the spammers are now Spanish prisoners.
We're seeing financial scams from Nigeria. We'll probably see other sorts of financial scams. People have always been suckers for, solve your physical problems and make yourself irresistible.
My latest product, a fat-shrinking body wrap kit, has arrived.
$100, and in return, I got 10 tensor bandages, some slenderizing cream, which will take inches off my body.
The calories have to go somewhere. They can't disappear. And if you put a cream on, I don't think that science shows it can melt fat.
This is more than just a cream. There's actually a weight loss suit. Dietitian Rosie Schwartz is dubious about my latest purchase.
232.
Yeah. Let's see what we have here. 43.
43 chest. Waistline.
It's 43.
43 chest, 43 waist. That's completely flat. That's what they call a washboard, right? Ugh. My legs feel much thinner now.
And you have to wrap your head?
Is that traditionally a fatty area? I am now completely wrapped, or as wrapped as I'm going to be, because I ran out of tensor bandages. But the next step is I must stay wrapped for 60 minutes, and we'll see what happens.
Oh my God. It's quite a fashion statement, I have to say.
Yes! It feels good to be active in this. Okay, so it's been an hour, and it's time for the grand unveiling. Well, that's just gross.
Oh. Do I measure you? The waist below the navel. 43, and you were 43? The weight, you weigh exactly the same thing. I think I know what's lighter.
Okay.
Your wallet.
My wallet is lighter.
Your wallet is lighter, Dave.
So far, Spam just seems like a virtual supermarket for junk. But has ever you spammed?
We're in New York. We're here to talk to, well, we're kind of here to talk to Jason Vale, but we can't talk to him because he's in prison. Instead, we'll hang.
Hi, Dave. Come in.
Jason Vale was a cancer survivor who became a world champion arm wrestler. He believed that his cancer was cured because he was eating apricot seeds, which contain Laetrile.
Jason's motivation for telling people about Laetrile was his own cure.
The word with Spam.
I have hundreds and hundreds of testimonials. All of these people said, my tumor shrunk, even their animals. Their dogs and their gerbils, and you should see some of the stories I have.
Their dogs shrunk?
The dog didn't shrink, the tumor shrunk.
Okay, because that would be weird.
Sued for spam in prison, FDA went after him for claiming that Laetrile is a cancer cure.
Well, here we are in Brooklyn. This is the Metropolitan Detention Center, and this is about as close as we're going to get to Jason Vale.
The actual charge was contempt of court because he disobeyed a court order not to sell apricots.
Dear with chalk. All the kids from the block came out in a frenzy, protesting what we were doing. Wouldn't you know it, half an hour later, the whole street was being worked on by chalk-happy kids, the same ones who so vehemently protested when we did it.
Jason never tried to hide what he was doing.
Mass emailing and annoying some customers, yet they're the ones closing it down for all the others. Sincerely, Jason Vale.
Well, a lot of people got angry getting the unsolicited emails, but he felt it was free speech, and he got a message that...
A lot of spammers claim that their messages are free speech. But if you want to talk about free speech, there's only one place in the world to go. Speaker's Corner in London, England is a lot like the internet. It brings together a wide range of people and ideas, allowing all of them to interact. But unlike the internet, Speaker's Corner was around long before the computer.
I think it maybe have been going about 400 years. But of course it was the place of public execution, and they have been going since about the 14th century, and people were allowed to make their last speeches before being executed.
I like the idea that this place is designated forum for speakers is a forum for my friends to send me messages.
You choose to come to Speaker's Corner, you choose to go to a stand, people choose to leave one stand and go to another. That's their choice. When I switch on my computer, I don't have any choice what rubbish comes onto it. That's the difference.
But how do we stop this rubbish?
The U.S. government really started paying attention to spam in 2003, and a couple of different things happened. One was that the Federal Trade Commission started to focus on it. It had some use. Several senators showed up for their sound bites to say, we're going to do something about spam.
What was a simple annoyance last year has become a major concern this year and could cripple one of the greatest inventions of the 20th century next year.
The forum brought together the good guys and the not-so-good guys.
I've been in the email marketing business about 7 years. I originally got in.
Bill Wagg calls himself, but has a different term for what he does.
You know, when I hear the word spam all the time, I think of evil, people trying to scam you, okay? Spam and email marketing are completely different things.
Bill feels that his profession is misunderstood, so he's agreed to tell me his side of the story. Which means I'm going to meet an alleged spammer. According to Spam House, at his peak, Bill was sending out 16 million emails a day from his headquarters here. Las Vegas is a city of light that probably uses more electricity than the entire internet, but sells many of the same products that are available online.
A truck full of strippers.
Las Vegas is all about selling a dream, and there's no setting more appropriate for meeting a spammer. Although, now that I'm actually in Vegas, Bill seems a little less willing to talk.
I gave you a couple of calls this morning. I don't know if you're up yet. It's about 1:30.
I booked this interview a few weeks ago, and the guy just doesn't return phone calls.
William Wagner, there, I'm in the phone book, Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm not hiding from anybody.
The phone book isn't helping much.
We have managed to get a cell number.
I'll speak to you soon. I've left a couple messages before. Hopefully you're getting these. Thanks, Bill.
Now, spammers are people going to hide from people.
It's ringing. And voicemail. We're hoping to connect for the interview. If you can give me a buzz, that'd be great. Well, there are people who live out here at least.
Bill Wagner, where are you?
Now, spammers are people going to hide from people. I'm not hiding from anybody.
What are you afraid of?
Sorry, my attorney advised me not to attend. Have a good trip in Vegas. So this goes to show you the spammers value their anonymity, and I sunburned my head for nothing.
I haven't gotten much from these spammers except a bunch of bogus products. I'm beginning to doubt the security of e-commerce.
Yeah, I'd like to have the credit limit on my card reduced because I made some online purchases. Yeah, I was buying something for my friend.
Why do spammers not want to appear in films?
The reason mostly are that what they're doing is illegal a lot of places, and everybody hates it. It's like you're the guy who everybody hates. You don't want to be visible.
So how do the big guys catch these anonymous spammers?
I do investigations on behalf of AOL and major ISPs, essentially tracking and identifying spammers. It starts with looking at the totality of what comes in the door, and then taking that and looking at what I call fingerprints to try to look for patterns in the mail, and then using those patterns to really establish who are the big fish that are worth your time to go after.
Now, I understand human fingerprints, but what's an email fingerprint?
Just like any other sort of crime, any evidence left behind that you can use to try to identify who the person is. And usually it's an internet data point. It's an IP address, an email address, a from line, a domain name. Sometimes it can be, idiosyncratic words, misspellings of words. There are only so many ways to misspell penis, for example.
So it's not just bad English. Spammers misspell words deliberately to evade filters, but it may finger them.
You may find that a particular spammer does it the same way every time. that can be a fingerprint that you try to target in on. Looking at the from lines is particularly difficult because of the dispersive effect of spam. People often, when you look in your mailbox, you get the impression that the mail's coming from everywhere. It's much easier and much more effective, really, to focus on what it is that they're trying to sell. What's the spammer want you to do? It's really the same way you catch kidnappers. Kidnapper says, you can get the kid back if you meet me at the oak tree in the park at noon. Well, that's how you catch him. You go to the oak tree in the park at noon and you wait to see who shows up with the kid.
And so I went to an oak tree. John's theory is a good one. And it's exactly what the state of Pennsylvania did when they wanted to bust some spammers.
So we're in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I'm at the Attorney General's office and we're about to meet one of the most formidable spam fighters in the world.
When Catherine Silcox came across an illegal diploma mill selling fraudulent degrees, she decided to teach them a lesson.
Trinity Southern University is the name of the website. As you can see, they have individuals pictured who appear to be going to classes. No such campus existed.
His life.
Yeah.
Trinity Southern wasn't just spamming, they were making it look like their spams came from the Pennsylvania State Senate.
You believing that it was actually from would opened up into the website. Obviously that creates some bad will.
Catherine smelt a rat, so she recruited an undercover agent to purchase a degree.
This is Colby.
We made up some experience for Colby and put his resume together.
So he was
school, so come on, closer. Colby's a little shy. Can you grab hold of the cage?
I'll grab the cage.
This is like taking Colby to the vet. Something that he doesn't like to do. Come on, Cole. Come on, Cole. Come on, sweetie. We'd asked for a bachelor's degree in accounting. Colby was awarded an executive master of business administration degree.
He's a smart cat. Were you happy to receive your MBA?
I got the email that said that Colby was going to be awarded an MBA. I was completely surprised and shocked and thrilled at the same time.
And what public prosecutor wouldn't be thrilled when a criminal is dumb enough to sell evidence to her cat?
They have an option for $99 of getting a transcript. So I requested a copy of Colby's transcript. I was very surprised when I saw that Colby got a 3.5 GPA.
This is McGill University in Montreal. This is where I went to school.
Now let's take a look at the transcripts. The cat got an A in economics. I got a B. Marketing, Colby got an A. I got a B. Counting, cat A, me B+. Overall, the cat seems to have done better in school than I did. So you have...
Thanks to Colby, spammers Craig and Alton Poe were found guilty and required to pay a civil penalty of close to $300,000. But one question remains. What happened to the other degrees sold?
We have received many calls from businesses who are investigating their employees who are using Trinity Southern degrees.
The investigation revealed a prominent doctor, scientist, and professor were among the purchasers of Trinity Southern degrees.
My concern is when you show up at the emergency room and you see a doctor you've never met before and he has a diploma on the wall. I mean, is that a diploma from 5 years in medical school or is that a diploma for $50 from some diploma mill? I mean, the risks are really bad.
The information age is good, but this is destroying it. We want to protect it before it's destroyed.
And that's why in 2003, the U.S. passed the Can Spam Law.
Can Spam is a United States federal law that essentially criminalized spam, really, and caused the spam community to really divide into two camps. Those that essentially decided, I'm getting out of this, and those that decided they're going to become internet criminals, kind of like bank robbers who decide they've got to put on ski masks now whenever they go into the bank because they clearly know they're breaking the law.
I really don't understand what is going on because I think that they took the wrong person. The internet is very big and I really don't know what happened. I didn't do anything wrong.
Well, I think anymore the professional spam community is diversified in a sense. If you're a professional spammer, I think you're trying to do whatever you can do to make a buck. I think spammers are, as a result, having to get trickier about who they target and how they target those people.
Canned spam makes it illegal to send messages with false subject lines and forged return paths. It also requires that consumers be able to opt out of receiving spam. Unfortunately, this is the law's biggest weakness.
If you ask me to send you mail, you have opted in to my mailing list. Whereas if I simply force mail on you until you beg me to stop, I'm demanding that you opt out. I mean, in the US at least, paper junk mail is all opt out. And the only reason we're not more flooded with it than we are is that you actually have to pay 50 cents for a piece of paper mail. Email is free, so that the problem with opt-out email is just that there's no dike holding the flood back.
The United States favors the interests of businesses by using the opt-out method, but countries like Australia protect the consumer by using the opt-in method.
I must say we have consistently congratulated the Australians on what they've achieved.
Australia has the toughest spam laws on the planet. Not surprising from a country that also has the toughest football. As US law enforcement got serious about spam, one of the highest profile takedowns was Jeremy Janes.
And here's the spam quarters. Spam quarters. There's Jeremy in his little office.
He was sending out 3 primary pieces of email, and this was one of the messages. It was a penny stock picker that supposedly could help you find penny stocks that you could invest in and make money.
Penny stock picks are, the technical phrase is pump and dump. Okay, they buy up a whole bunch of stock for, say, 3 cents. Okay, then they send out a bunch of spam saying, hey, this stock is really hot, you know, and it skyrockets up to 23 cents, at which point they then sell it to the suckers, who then attempt to sell it to each other, and it collapses back to 3 cents. It's a classic scam that goes back to the 1800s.
This is a list of addresses that he provided when he registered domain names. It said his company was Manor Ops and that they did business at 6458 Creedmoor Road. But if you go to that address, you see it's a tree. This is another address, and now you can see the business has improved. They've now upgraded from a tree to an entire forest. This time they've actually been able to acquire apparently personal property. It's an abandoned car.
The authorities traced Janes to this condo.
They seized computers and routers, a large volume of CDs and DVDs that contained email addresses and other physical evidence. These were handwritten notes that were recovered from a trash can that seemed to contain references to the various tasks that one has to go through if you want to be a successful spammer. One of the things found on the computers was the text of the actual email that looked like the penny stock picker spam. So you've got a nice evidentiary chain between what the victim saw and the text message that was found inside the defendant's computer.
Janes was found guilty and sentenced to 9 years in prison.
In the last couple of years, though, we've seen a major exodus, and I think this is to the credit of the law enforcement efforts that have gone on.
So if it's becoming harder to be a spammer in America, then where is all the spam coming from?
There are big gushes of spam that come out of Russia, that come out of the Ukraine, that come out of Romania, and to some extent come out of pretty much any other country where either the government is not technically sophisticated or the government simply isn't up to the task of regulating a fairly complicated environment.
Believe it or not, there's a haven for spammers that's much, much closer to the US. Canada has laws against fraud, obscenity, and invasion of privacy, but it lacks a universal spam law.
Many other jurisdictions are quite obviously moving more aggressively against spammers, and as spammers look for a place to locate, if they can find a jurisdiction that is incredibly connected and doesn't have significant tough anti-spam laws, that's the perfect place to set up. We've got the connectivity, and without the laws, there's a real risk that Canada becomes a spam haven. Is the government moving in the right direction? The government established a national task force to look at the issue. We came to the conclusion that there was a need for greater emphasis on spam, and we recommended that Canada move forward with a specific anti-spam law. Unfortunately, an election has intervened, so we're not completely certain where the government's ultimately going to go with those recommendations.
The internet has certainly made the world a much smaller community. Where criminals before had to physically get to your front door in order to rob you, criminals today simply have to get to your computer.
Neil Schwartzman is a Canadian anti-spammer.
These days, the biggest growth industry in spam is phishing.
Whenever you get a spam that seems to come from your bank or from somebody else's bank, that's a phish. And what's going on is the bad guy is pretending to be your bank to try to persuade you to come to his website, which looks like your bank's website, and log in. Typically, oh, you need to come and reconfirm your password.
If you give out your PIN number and your bank card, you are actually liable for that full amount that they may remove from your bank account. To date, most banks have been generous enough to cover any losses, but that tends to be simply enlightened self-interest. They don't want anybody to know that people are losing tens of thousands of dollars out of their bank accounts.
What makes it really scary is Neil shows me a site where anyone can buy a phishing kit for about $200.
We see there's a bank here called SunTrust. We could fish for PayPal, eBay a little further up. Basically what you're seeing here is all the stuff that you need, a list of email addresses and a list of graphics. You can send off your phishing spam and collect your money afterwards.
Unless nations unite to fight and bring spammers to justice, the internet will continue to be a wild west.
The internet has grown so quickly. It's kind of like old boom towns in the West. Imagine if an entire city were built overnight and we didn't put any locks on the doors or windows.
One of the problems with the computer age today is that people have not grasped the seriousness which this type of intrusion is causing.
And how do we stop all this crime?
I like to analogize spam as the marijuana of internet crimes. It's really the starting crime that a lot of people use to get themselves into more substantial and more harmful computer crimes. Law enforcement is realizing if they focus on suppressing spam as a criminal activity, they're going to be successful in stopping other types of internet crimes as well.
So what we really need is a sheriff who can clean up Internet Town.
We need to make sure that people who are doing these illegal actions, they are brought to account. At the same time, we need to make it dramatically more difficult for these people.
Because right now, spammers can sneak up on you, burrow into your computer, and send spam through your mailbox without you knowing it. But how do they do that? The University of Calgary offers a course in fighting spam. Professor John Aycock explains.
Let's say that this is you over here, and this is the bad spammer over here. If the spammer sends email to you directly, so email goes to the internet and comes to your machine, then it's very easy to say, okay, who sent this to me? Because you can just look and see who connected to you. Now with Grandma up here, her machine might have a worm on it. So instead of sending you the mail directly, what happens is the spammer sends through Grandma's machine, and now all of a sudden the mail now looks like it's coming from Grandma's machine.
Grandma's computer has become a zombie.
What a zombie is, it's a computer that is remotely controlled by a bad guy without the knowledge of the computer's owner. There's a couple of ways that zombies can get into your computer. The oldest way was that a virus would arrive by email. You know, it would say, haha, look at this cute message. And you would open the message, and that would infect you. Now, though, that malicious software can basically just hop from computer to computer. Those are called worms.
So you can have zombie armies, and they're sometimes referred to as botnets because of how you control them.
How do you know if you've got a zombie?
If your computer starts acting weird and slow, more likely than not, there is software running on your computer that you didn't put there.
Can we ever stop zombies?
I'm afraid I'm going to have to drop the solution for the zombie problem in Bill Gates' lap, because the fundamental reason we have so many zombies is that everybody runs Windows and it's really easy to subvert.
So Bill is fighting spam while Windows enables it.
We need to make it dramatically more difficult for these people.
Maybe that's why Microsoft turned down my request for an interview.
There are literally millions and millions of computers on networks all over the world that can be controlled at a moment's notice by bad guys somewhere else. And we're lucky that the worst thing that they use most of them for is to send spam, because the alternatives and the possibilities are really frightening.
They can, by using a zombie army, knock out a complete network quite easily.
In the same way an army of zombies can send millions of spams to millions of users, those zombies could get together and direct all that traffic at a single user, hammering them with data until they're too overloaded to function.
The bad guys can basically knock anybody off the net they want, which means that we have problems with extortion. The bad guys send you a letter and say, nice website you got, sure would be bad if it disappeared. Pay us or else.
Could this, I mean, logically extend to like cyber terrorism?
The same way they could knock somebody's website off the net, they could knock a power plant or potentially a whole utility off the net. The opportunities for doing bad stuff are really frightening.
It seems spam is just the tip of the iceberg, and the future looks bleak. Is there anything we can do?
Spamming is fundamentally not a technical problem, it's a social problem.
So long as there's still people around to trick, then we will have all these problems with spam and with malicious software.
I think as long as people want unit enlargement or body part enlargement, there will be someone who's selling it.
And someone who's buying it. Let's face it, if no one ever bought miracle cures, spam wouldn't exist.
Right now we're driving through Lancaster, Pennsylvania, home of the Amish. Now these people don't have a problem with spam. They've got the ultimate filter system. They just don't believe in the internet. Which probably means they have a lot more time to live their lives and waste less time deleting spam. You know, a world without spam is actually quite beautiful.
Spam,